So topic 8, part B, talks about the sum and difference. So sum or difference of two cubes. Sum or difference of two cubes. Okay, now listen carefully. Remember when we did the sum or the difference of two squares, and we saw that you can factor the difference of two squares as this, as two binomials, where the first were the same, the last was b's, and the signs were different. One was negative, one was positive. The difference, so we're going to do the difference of two cubes. So the difference of two cubes will look like this. Difference of two cubes. So you're going to have a cubed minus b cubed. Difference of two cubes versus difference of two squares. Difference of two squares you can factor as two binomials. Looks just like this. The difference of two cubes, this is how you factor it. Now you have to remember this formula. Now I'm going to go ahead and write this as f squared minus l squared. So when you look at the lessons, for some of the lessons, I use the letter F and the letter L. And the F implies first, and the L implies last. I didn't mean squared, I mean cubed. So first cubed minus last cubed. And here's how you factor the difference of two cubes. It's a binomial times a trinomial. A binomial times a trinomial. Binomial times a trinomial. The difference of two squares was a binomial times a binomial. The difference of two cubes is a binomial times a trinomial. And here's what the binomial is. Now remember, we're looking at difference now. So the binomial that you put here is what you see here, f minus l. Okay? And here's the trinomial. Now this is a formula you're going to have to remember. So here's the formula. So it'll be f minus l, the binomial times the trinomial. The trinomial is this. You're going to square f. You're going to add the product of the first and the last. You're going to say plus f times l. And then you're going to add the l squared. So there's your trinomial. First squared plus f times l plus l squared. The sum of two cubes, the sum of two cubes is also a binomial times a trinomial. So the difference of two cubes is a binomial times a trinomial. The sum of two cubes is also a binomial times a trinomial. And you saw how when we did the binomial, it's just what you see here. The same thing. I meant this to be L, excuse me. F cubed plus L cubed. So it's the same thing here. You're going to say F plus L, and then I want you to notice something. You see, I'm going to look at this when I do this one. So it's going to be F squared minus, see how you had a plus here? See, this was, remember the difference of two cubes? You had a subtraction. The middle sign is the opposite. So the middle sign is the opposite. The middle sign is the opposite. So this is F plus L. Then you're going to say subtract right here. So subtract the first times the last, and then plus the last squared. So the only difference between the formulas is that this is a minus, this is a plus, this is a plus, this is a minus. Now, on the test, I'll go ahead and give you those formulas. You don't have to memorize them. You just need to know how to use them. All right, so you just have to know how to use them. All right, so let's look at some problems. So let's look at number one. All right, so number one, let's suppose we had this for number one. All right, number one. We have b cubed plus 64. B cubed plus 64. So I have two terms. The GCF, and we're always looking for the GCF. The GCF here is 1. So I have two terms. There's a plus sign in the middle. But I want you to notice that this is a cubed. So ask yourself, is this the sum of two cubes? All right. And so if it is, you're going to do it just like you did the difference of two squares. You're going to try and see, well, can I fill these parentheses out? So it's going to look like this. So you're going to say, well, can I fill these parentheses out? So is this right here the sum of two cubes? So b cubed is b times b times b. So that is this. 64 is 4 times 4 times 4. So think about it. So all I'm doing, I'm going to show you. See, that's 64, right? So you want to write it as something cubed. So all you do is just take the cube root of 64. So let me see, see right here, you're going to use this button right here. So you got to use your second, but you got to put the index first. You're going to say cube root, so 3, second, right here. So cube root 64 equals, and you get 4. All right, so the cube root of 64 is 4, so 4 goes inside the parentheses. So notice this is the sum of two cubes. And so remember the formula. The formula for the sum of two cubes, is a binomial times a trinomial. Your binomial is f plus L. Your trinomial is f squared. Remember the sign changes. Minus f times L, the first times the last, and then plus the last squared. All right, so let's go ahead and fill that in. So there's your F, there's your L. So your F is B, your L is 4. All right, so here's how you do this. So remember, sum of two cubes is a binomial first. So the binomial is B plus 4. B plus 4 times the trinomial. All right, so let's think about the trinomial. So the trinomial says this: I take my first and I square it. All right, so f squared in this case is b times b. So b times b is b squared. So that goes here. So f is b, and so you square it. So b squared. Then minus, and then the next part says, the part that goes here is this, f times L. So let's look at f times L. So remember, f is b, L is 4. So that's 4 times b. All right, so we get minus 4b. And then L squared, so L is 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. So plus 16 goes here. And whenever you factor the sum or difference of two cubes, this trinomial cannot be factored further. So there's your answer. That's all you do. All right, so the sum of two cubes is a binomial times a trinomial, and there's your formula. So when you look at the lessons, when you go to the topics in that week 3, the lessons are going to kind of talk about the same thing. So if you need to look at more problems, make sure you look at those lessons. Let's look at number 2. Number 2, let's suppose we had this, w cubed minus 8. So I have two terms. I have a subtraction in the middle. This is exponent 3, so cube. So let's see if this is the difference of two cubes. And don't forget, the GCF is 1. Always look for GCF first. So the GCF is 1 here. So remember, the difference of two cubes, this is the difference of two cubes. If I can write this as something cubed minus something cubed. And so notice that 8, let's talk about 8 first. 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. So 8 is 2 cubed. W cubed, that's easy. W cubed is just W times W times W. So this is the difference of two cubes. So this is your F, this is your L. And remember how to factor the difference of two cubes. So the difference of two cubes, F cubed minus L cubed, is F minus L times F squared plus, you change the sign, plus FL plus L squared. All right, so there's your formula. So now let's write the answer. So remember, the difference of two cubes is a binomial times a trinomial. So your binomial is what you see, W minus 2. There's your binomial. Your trinomial we're going to get from here. So the trinomial says this. I'm going to take f, I'm going to multiply by itself. So f is w. So I want you to notice that f squared is w times w, because that's f right here. There's your first, which is w squared. So that goes here. Then plus, and then I've got to find what f times l is. Well, f is w, l is 2, so that's 2l. So that goes here. And then l squared is, l is 2, so that's 2 times 2, which is 4. So that's plus 4. And there's your answer. So you're done. So that's number 2. Let's look at number 3. Now number 3, I want you to see something in number 3. So let's suppose in number 3 we had this, 64 s cubed minus 1. So notice I have two terms. I have a subtraction in the middle. I see a cube here. So you got to ask yourself, is this the difference of two cubes? So it would be the difference of two cubes if I could write this as something cubed minus something cubed. Well, 1, the cube root of 1 is 1. So 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. For 64, that's going to be 64s cubed, that's going to be 4s, because look, 4s times 4s times 4s, 4 times 4 is 16, 16 times 4 is 64, and then s times s times s is s cubed. So 4s goes here. So there's your f, there's your l. So there's your first, there's your last, and then all I do now, remember the difference of two cubes, all I do now is use this formula. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it. So the formula is f minus l times f squared plus f times l plus l squared. So it's remember the difference of two cubes is a binomial times a trinomial. So your binomial is easy. That's just 4s minus 1. Your trinomial, we're going to use this right here. So the trinomial says this. Now you got to remember what this says. So this says I take f and I multiply by itself. So f squared means f times f. Well, f, be careful, f is 4s. That means 4s times 4s. So 4 times 4 is 16. S times s is s squared. So 16s squared goes here. And it kind of makes sense because look, if you distribute 4 times 16 is 64. S times s squared is s cubed. Okay? So always kind of check that out first. Just make sure that this gives you this. Okay, now plus. So plus f times l. Well, f is 4s times l, which is 1. So 4s times 1 is 4s. So that goes here. And then plus, and then l squared. L is 1. So 1 times 1 is 1. And there's your answer. So 16s squared, 4s minus 1 times 16s squared plus 4s plus 1. All right, so let's look at number 4. Let's do another one. So number 4, let's suppose you had this in number 4. All right, number 4. Let's suppose we had 4x cubed minus 256. So remember, the first thing you always want to look for is the GCF. And I want you to notice right away, if you look at these two, the GCF is 4. The GCF of these two terms is 4. And even if you didn't see it, the 4 is not a perfect cube, and 256 is not a perfect cube. So that kind of tells you something. It may tell you, hey, there might be a GCF that's not 1. So the GCF is 4. So let's go ahead and factor out the GCF first. So that becomes 4 times, and so that'll be x cubed, minus, that's minus here. So 4 times x cubed is 4x cubed, and then 256 divided by 4 gives us 64. Okay? Now, remember, you're not done. Don't say that's the answer, because all you did was factor out the 4. You got to look at this right here. See this right here? X cubed minus 64. That's a difference of two cubes. Because I can go further with this, because 64 is 4 times 4 times 4. X cubed is x times x times x. So there's your F, there's your L. And so the difference of two cubes becomes, remember, your binomial times the trinomial. The binomial is what you see, x minus 4. The trinomial, remember your formula, let me go ahead and write the formula. So the formula was f minus L for the difference of two cubes is f minus L times f squared plus FL plus L squared. So let's fill this part out from here. So f squared, f here is x. So that's x times x, which is x squared. So that goes here. Kind of makes sense because look, x times x squared is x cubed. Okay, then plus f times L. So f is x, L is 4, so that's 4x. So that goes here. Remember, this is subtraction, this has to be addition. And then plus, and then L squared. So L squared, L here is 4, so that's 4 times 4, which is 16. So that goes here. Now, be careful, that's not the answer to the original problem. See, this is the answer to this. So you got to remember that in the original problem, you factored out a 4. So you got to rewrite that 4. So you're going to get 4 times this binomial times this trinomial. So 4 times x minus 4 times x squared plus 4x plus 16. All right, and let's do one more. So number 5, let's suppose we had this. We had 8x cubed plus y cubed. So the GCF, if you remember, always look at the GCF first. The GCF is 1. So then I notice, though, that this is two terms. There's a sum here, and these are cubes. So the question is this the sum of two cubes? And so it is because I can write 8x cubed as 2x times 2x times 2x. And I can write y cubed as y times y times y. So there's your F, there's your L. And remember, the sum of two cubes, the formula is a binomial times a trinomial. The binomial is F plus L, and the trinomial would be F squared, remember you change the sign now, minus FL plus L squared. So there's your formula for the sum of two cubes. Now let's write down the answer. So the answer, the factorization will be the binomial C here, F plus L. So 2x plus y. 2x plus y. Times, now let's do the trinomial. So the trinomial, we're going to do f squared first. So f squared, so remember f is this, 2x. So f squared means 2x times 2x. And so 2 times 2 is 4. X times x is x squared. So that's 4x squared. Minus, okay, f times L. Well, remember, f is 2x times L, which is y. And so 2x times y is just 2xy. That goes here. Plus, and then L squared, L is y, so L squared means y times y, which is y squared, and so that goes here. And so there's your answer. All right. So that was for this part here, that was a quick review. That was a quick review for the sum or difference of two cubes. All right, now let's talk about, we have one more thing I want to look at,